Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Quentin Tarantino's ninth film. It has been described as his most personal film to date. It's also been described as the work of an older director. He also has said himself that it is the film that closest resembles Pulp Fiction, considered his masterpiece. So I was excited. Quentin Tarantino is a very talented man, and you're in one or two camps. Either you like his films or you don't. So I enjoy Quentin Tarantino's films, so I was already going to watch this film. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a really interesting film. It's about Rick Dalton. He is an aging cowboy and war film star, kind of like John Wayne. However, he's done a show called Bounty Law, a rerun show on the TV. He's best friends with Cliff Booth. He is his stuntman. The two of them hang out a lot. And basically, after Rick Dalton has a meeting with a Hollywood producer fan who tells him that by taking roles as the villain and guest spots for television shows, he's sort of admitting defeat of being a has-been. So while Rick's sort of, having a midlife crisis about his career, the film also splits off into other storylines. What Cliff does when he's hanging around and he's not driving around his friend Rick. And there's also Sharon Tate living with her husband Roman Polanski. They are the neighbors of Rick. And the film sort of just takes this sort of easygoing, sort of laid-back type storyline. I really liked how there was no title cards in this film or chapters. I know that like Kill Bill and Hateful Eight and maybe a couple of other films have like the chapters thing. I don't like chapter headings. That's like a really big pet peeve of mine because we're not watching a play, and I don't want to be interrupted by having a title card. Another film that does this is Dom Hemingway, but I'm getting off topic. Anyways, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has amazing production values. It's a very nostalgic film about the year of 1969, and I really enjoyed the attention to detail. The film sort of just has all these little like cutaways and little like nods and things like that. And you think that they're not important, but they end up being important later. And it's definitely something that would benefit from a second viewing, for one thing. And then the film is also able to balance this sort of light-hearted tone of a nostalgic 1960s Hollywood, and also the sense of dread. There's this amazing scene, a build-up scene that's been building up for half the movie, where Brad Pitt's character has to go out to a farm, and that scene is just like a masterclass in tension. It's just a very tense scene, and definitely one of the best parts of the film is the acting, for one thing. Leonardo DiCaprio plays probably one of his best roles to date. He's a very vulnerable, anxiety-ridden movie star who's like really emotional, but he just wants to do what he loves, which is acting. And the movie has a lot of nice, clever little Easter eggs that you might enjoy or might not enjoy. But we can all agree that the scene stealer is Brad Pitt. This role was just simply amazing. He just completely owns the role 110%. He's just got the charisma, he's got the toughness, he's got that backstory. It's just a really interesting role. Understated, quiet, but like it's just really good. And definitely my favorite part of the film for sure. There's some smaller cameos in there. Most people are probably just excited for the Bruce Lee scene. There's only one real scene with Bruce Lee, but it's a great scene. As for everything else, the movie has some pacing issues. It's a film that's 2 hours and 45 minutes, so that's a little bit longer than usual. And the movie sort of drags in the middle. And then, however, they have this entire sequence that's done basically in voiceover. It's trying to like cover what happens in a 6-month period in like 6 minutes, but I felt that was the weakest part of the film. Just basically the film just grinds to a sudden halt, having a voiceover montage, and then just sort of cutting to the finale. It just sort of felt like a jarring sort of shift. I think that was the weakest part of the movie for me, just because they didn't use title cards or anything, and the movie sort of seamlessly was able to cut into one story to the next, and then all of a sudden, huge voiceover montage. Anyways, the film is a little bit of a risk because it's a little bit unconventional from your usual Hollywood films. To cover a true event like the Manson murders is definitely something that's been done before, but probably on a cheaper scale. But this movie is not one of Tarantino's best, but it's up there as in a solid film. Cinematography is great. The music obviously is great. The only other flaw I can think of the film is that Quentin Tarantino, people seem to notice that he's got like a foot fetish thing going on. And in other films, it's a lot more subtle. But in this movie, people will be talking and then they'll just put their feet right in the front of the camera for no reason. And it happens twice in the movie, and it's just kind of distracting. I understand that he likes to have his little trademark, I guess. Like, you know, Miyazaki's got pigs and, you know, pilots and things like that. And Tarantino is, you know, feet. Other than that, though, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a rewarding film. If you're patient enough, if you enjoy a different kind of movie where it's about nostalgia and it also mixes in a little bit of tension and dread with true life events, you'll definitely enjoy Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So I give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a 7.5 out of 10.